This is the original Firefighter podcast, where we talk about anything you would talk about at the Firehouse kitchen table. And sometimes we even talk about fighting fires. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell. Let's get into the show. And welcome back to another edition of the original Firefighter podcast. We've got a good show for you today. In fact, a great one, because it's all about what goes on in the firehouse in the normal lifestyle capacity of, you know, the doors are closed. You're just hanging out for your 24-hour shift, if assuming that you work a 24-hour shift. But if you're there for 48 hours, well, hey, you know what? Life goes on behind the closed doors, right? And so we're going to have a conversation today about what does a normal life inside the firehouse look like. We're not talking about going on runs. We're not talking about the big fires and things like that. And for today's episode, we're going to stick on one principle, which is what is happening inside those four walls. And so if you think about your firehouse and so the daily life that goes on, everybody takes a role. You've got your low guy that's, you know, using the mops and getting everything cleaned and using the vacuum cleaner, and hopefully, you know, he's doing the urinals. You know, and then you got the officer and he's taking care of the business, you know, the things that need to get done in the day. Then you got your, what I would call, the barn boss. And the barn boss is the guy that just makes sure that the officer doesn't really have to get involved. He can just sort of drive the day. And then you've got the special one. And I pause on that. The special one. Who's the special one? Well, he's the cook. You know, like the cook kind of gets away with a lot, I think, you know. So we're going to have a conversation about some of that stuff. So what I want to do is I want to introduce the listeners and viewers. And if, you know, if you have an opportunity to go to YouTube, click and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Original Firefighter. If you're on all the social medias, please follow us there as well. But today we're going to bring on a special guest. He's known for using pork rinds as Christmas stuffers. It is the only, one and only Mike Riley, retired firefighter of the Rockford Fire Department. And we're going to go into some other things that you've also done beyond the fire, your years as a firefighter in Rockford. But, you know, introducing you to the show, Mike Riley, welcome to our show. And please give us a little bit of a background of yourself, if you would.
I did just short of 26 years on Rockford Fire, retired as a driver engineer. That was a little over 7 years ago.
Wow, 7 years, huh?
Yeah.
You haven't changed it up at all.
Hey, why mess with perfection?
Why? Yeah, right. Don't stir the sauce.
After I retired, I still taught paramedic classes part-time, and then the whole global nastiness of COVID hit, and there was no paramedic classes to be taught. To kind of occupy my time, I decided to write down all the recipes that I used to make when I was the cook at the station.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to jump into that here in a little bit. We're going to reference it a few times, but what I'm holding here in my hand, this is the Cook and Ladder Company #1, a Firehouse cookbook by the one and only Michael B. Riley Sr. You can pick this up, and we're going to talk about how people can get this in their hands on the show. You know what? I used this yesterday for the Super Bowl. I made my own chili. And what's pretty cool here is that you've got also a whole line of spices. And I did use the Firehouse chili powder in my chili yesterday for my Super Bowl chili. And then we've got a taco seasoning. Bombero is firefighter in Spanish, yes?
Right?
Sí. And then we have Snowstorm Buffalo Wing Dry Rub. And I do like the name of this, for Snowstorm, because Rockford was known for always having a pretty good snowstorm during the winter months. Although we're having a really just a very warm winter here. What's things back there in Rockford for you?
It's been chilly. We're coming out of a stretch where we barely made it above zero for like a week and a half in a row, and could have been worse. Could have been 10 inches of snow coming down every day.
Yeah. No, so here I am in Whitefish, Montana, and we're having a very unusual winter. It's warm. There's no snow. Yesterday we had just light shirts on for the Super Bowl. We, you know, got together and had a little party, and it was super comfortable, super weird. But we did, you know, enjoy the chili I made. It was done with your Firehouse chili powder, and I was glad to have it. I really appreciate that you sent that to us. What I want to talk about is, you know, getting into how, I mean, you and I have a relationship too, right? I mean, we have a professional relationship. We worked together a number of years. We were actually at the same firehouse at various times.
Yep.
For a good amount of time. I think there were times that we were in the same firehouse for several years.
Yeah, I think at one stretch we had 5 years in a row.
Did we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've had a lot of good fun together, but we've also had some pretty interesting, serious calls together. I'm sure we're probably going to have a little conversation about some of those things. I know there's one that sticks out in my mind. I know there is one for you too. So we'll get into that. So today we're talking about, life in the firehouse, and then we're going to get into the art of cooking with Mike Riley. So, one of the things that I enjoyed the most at the firehouse, and I think this would go to, anybody in this line of work, is you enjoy, it's just like your house where the kitchen is the place that everybody gathers, it congregates, and that pretty much begins, you get into work, you relieve your guy or the person that you're relieving, and then you're getting yourself on the truck, you're getting yourself ready for the shift and sort of, acclimating and doing the normal duties in the morning. But pretty soon you're going to find everybody in the kitchen.
Yep. Send cup of coffee, solving all the problems of the world.
Solving all the problems in the world. That's for sure. Right. Did any of them stick? Did we ever fix anything?
No. I think we were barely able to keep the house running.
What do you think about the day starting out with like everybody getting into the refrigerators and just trying to figure out what did the other shifts make, and that's what you're going to have for breakfast?
I mean, that whenever you're making stuff, you have to make sure that there's enough for leftovers. And,
right.
You come back at 2:00 in the morning and you don't want to have to go for a candy bar or bag of chips. You want to microwave what you had for supper that day.
If you want to see what that looks like in the firehouse terms, watch how firefighters go out on a call, and then when they come back to the station, what do they instinctively do first after they get off the truck?
First thing they do is go back into the kitchen.
And you instinctively open the refrigerators and look in there to see if there's anything new to eat.
Yep. Things spontaneously, create themselves.
And it's so funny too, because like if you have like say 10 runs in the first 8 hours of your shift, that's 10 trips back to the refrigerator. Like you just always do. You go out, you come back, you take a look. Is there anything that I want to eat?
At old Station 3, where there was really no break between the day room and the kitchen.
Yeah.
Watching TV, and there was a commercial set in an office building, and one guy's like, all excited, hey, there's leftover donuts in the break room after the meeting. And I turned to the guy sitting next to me. I said, can you imagine how sad it is when that's the high point of your day? And as soon as I finished saying day, someone in the kitchen said, hey, there's ice cream in the freezer left from yesterday.
It's always ice cream that goes into a cup. It's just easier to walk around with, and you don't feel guilty when you've had 7 cups of ice cream versus like one big bowl.
Well, I remember some of the true professional drivers back when I was young, they could fit a whole half gallon into a coffee cup.
Oh, sure, for sure. While smoking a pack of Marlboros.
Yes.
You mentioned the number of years that you had on the department, and aside from, the years that you and I worked together, what were some of the years that when you look back on them that you enjoyed the most, if you will? What were the ones that stood out for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's like asking, who's your favorite kid? I mean, yeah. Every year that I had, there was something about it that made it awesome. Whether it was, my first year and I was just so excited to be there, my second, third, and fourth years where I was at Engine 2, and at the time we were the busiest engine in the whole state. Then, went to paramedic class and, got into that whole thing. And, even just a new challenge, like when I had, what did I have? Close to 20 years on, maybe a little bit less, but ended up doing the whole ARF thing. Yeah. It was a new challenge. The grand scheme of things, nothing really happened. But there was a pretty big possibility for something pretty big to happen there. And that was, it was kind of like why I liked being a driver. I knew that unless I did my job right, no one else could do their job.
Right. Sure. Yeah. No, I understand. I mean, it's hard. It is hard to pick one particular year, usually you can look back and think about certain shifts that you were with that were, better than others. I would say. I think that that's pretty safe. That you end up having close knit groups of people working together and pitching in and creating that firehouse experience that is a positive one. And then you end up sometimes where it's not as positive. I mean, you don't get along as well. But the one thing that always is the common denominator, it is the food. It's the cooking. It's it is bringing that together. And I knew that, that was something that was very special back where we, worked together at, was that it was still in the mindset that the meals were important.
Yes.
Being at the table and doing that together. You'd have the day, you spent how many, times, if you could count them all up, how many hours did you actually spend cooking meals at the firehouse? Tons.
Average day, it was probably 3 or 4 hours just in the average day.
Yeah. I mean, you at the end of your career, you might as well call yourself a little bit of at least a sous chef, if not the chef, right? I mean, you might not end up being a chief, but you're a chef. So when you look back at that, I mean, I guess we're talking about the culture of cooking in the firehouse. I think that's really what the big conversation between us is.
Yeah, and the whole thing about being at the kitchen table as a group, we were talking about, you start out in the morning, cup of coffee around the table. Usually, unless someone really had to leave, it would be both shifts sitting there. So you catch up on, what happened the day before, what's new around the station, what's new with the truck. And then, the previous shift would leave, and then, your normal shift would all catch up on, hey, I took my dad fishing the other day, or, kid was back in the car out of the garage and took the mirror off, so now I got to deal with that tomorrow. That whole atmosphere. And then even after we got dishwashers in the stations, we still would either roll the dice or play the cards to have that extra time as a crew together, and that really helped make us a family.
Yeah, and you nailed it right there. Doing all that together, it definitely feels like a family together. And it's funny that you talk about the dishwasher. When you were new, you were the dishwasher. When you're the rookie, your hands better be in the dishwater. And I can remember that. You remember that we'd play cards, right?
Yep. And there'd be some interesting games since there wasn't money at stake.
I mean, it was so kind of ridiculous, right? I mean, it was like, I don't know, it was like slang poker, like poor man's poker. Like you could call anything that you wanted, basically. We were barely playing poker.
One of my favorites was always AK-47.
AK-47. Or 357 Magnum was a pretty good one too. If you played cards in the firehouse and you were playing for, some places they play for who washes the dishes. Some places, they play. I had friends that were on Chicago, and they were playing for the watch. They'd play cards at the beginning of the shift so that they would determine, because usually the officer would sit in the watch room during the daytime, but after 5 o'clock, that officer was kind of gone. Like it was like he just disappeared into the ether. And after that, till shift change, they would have 2-3 hour blocks of time where you would be in that watch room, listening, to dispatch and all this kind of stuff. This is going back before fire station alerting took over, and the digital voice dispatching, things like that. So, but when they were playing cards, like they would determine who had to take the really bad hours to stay up in the middle of the night, from 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning, which would suck. So I know what I'm doing is I'm going into the kitchen to find out what I can eat from 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning.
I wonder if they noticed guys in general losing weight when they stopped having to do the watch like that.
Yeah, right. No kidding. But what we would do is we would play cards for the dishes. Now, it didn't matter if you were a rookie and you won, you didn't actually really win.
No, that just meant you got into the dishes quicker.
You got up and just started washing dishes. So, yeah, no, I mean, and I do miss those days. I do. I assume you do as well.
Oh yeah, I'd say probably the last 5 or 6 years that I was on, we brought back playing the cards, and we would keep track of who the two losers were, added up at the end of the month, and then the biggest loser had to bring in some dessert for everybody.
Sure. More food.
Yeah, why not? Because we were starving with our bologna and cheese sandwiches.
Yeah, of course. Right. That's all they would let us eat. No, I mean, and that's the other thing too, is like, it really is. There's so much about the fire department, the firehouse, that does revolve around food. Things like, there's funny little traditions, like it's your birthday. Nobody's making you a cake. You're bringing it in for everybody. You are, you got a hire back. You got some overtime on your check. Hey, guess what? You're going to the store to spend $20 and get an ice cream or something for everybody, So, I mean, what's the saying, right? There's no firefighter that lets another firefighter have more than what they have.
It's funny with the hire back treats. I mean, back when we were hardly making anything, you get 24 hours of overtime and you're lucky to make $500. You still had to spend 20, $25 out of that for treats, where you're making more than double that, and you still only had to spend the 20, $25.
Yeah, right. We should have upped that game, shouldn't we? How about the firehouse that we both worked at, station number 10 on Rural Street? How about the fact that they were the one firehouse in the city, they rolled dice? I always thought that was cool.
Oh, I always loved it. I just never understood why that was the one station.
The only one.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, was there some smack talk when, playing dice, even, playing cards too. But there was something about slamming the dice and roll, just doing the whole thing. And there was just so much shit talk going on during those games.
Well, and my favorite part about that whole thing is when they redid the kitchen, they kept the original drawer only for rolling dice.
Yeah.
This old rickety drawer that was barely being held together by wood glue, and I think they actually ended up having to refelt it. The felt was so old that they had to put new felt in it. So I mean, there was just such unique aspects to again, the traditions that go on within any firehouse. But let's come back to the cooking part of it. How did you step into that? Did you already have kind of an idea of, I mean, you do have to have some cooking skills, right? I mean, talk about some of that,
Well, I started my first I shouldn't say officers, but my first 3 cooks that I worked with were probably some of the best cooks that Rockford Fire has ever had. Shout out Bruce Love, Mike O'Keefe, Bob Satterley. And, I was a new guy. I was their sous chef. Even if they didn't need me as their sous chef, if I didn't have anything else to do, I'd sit at the kitchen table and watch them and just learn how to cook the fire department way.
Yeah.
Fast forward.
What is the firehouse way? Just what you just said there. Tell me your version of what is the firehouse way?
Well, first, there's got to be a lot of it.
Got to be a lot.
It's got to be somewhat edible. And it's got to be mostly from scratch, but you can do some shortcuts. It kills me. I see guys post their meals on Facebook, and they're like, ooh, homemade chicken noodle soup for the boys today. I would certainly hope if you're cooking at the fire station and you're making chicken noodle soup, you're not just opening cans and heating it up. Does it really need...
The fact that they actually say that it's homemade, like what else would it be? Because I know that Campbell's is not going to cut it.
And I mean, I remember one guy, someone had posted, homemade chicken noodle soup for the guys today. So someone asked him, oh, hey, what's your recipe? He says, well, I get 4 of the boxes of the chicken broth. I get 2 of the packages of egg noodles. I get 4 of the cans of the diced chicken. Is that really homemade chicken noodle soup?
Yeah. We're gonna bonk on that. We're gonna say no. That's a bonk.
I took the time. I made my own broth. Usually during the winter, it was once a month I would make it.
Yeah.
Now I'm making, especially in winter, I'm making soup all 10 of the work days that we work. And maybe I buy noodles, but that broth was my own. I'm chopping the celery and the onion and the carrots and everything.
Trinity and
everything is other than the noodles. truly homemade.
Sure. And some guys would even go even further, and they would make homemade noodles. Um, Probably one of the greatest cooks I got to work with, and he actually came on the job with, was Jeff Linden. And that guy can cook a mean sugo and makes all his own pasta from scratch. I got to roll gnocchi with Frank DeCastris. That was amazing. I mean, the whole kitchen table was just filled with homemade rolled gnocchi. And I hope I'm saying that right. It's the potato pasta, right? So, I mean, and I got to learn from some of the greats as well that we both would remember, Lanny Wong. Jeff Anderson was a damn good cook. Deb Hudson. Oh my God, she was so fucking good. Yeah, I mean, they all had really great menus and just flair for different foods. But the thing about this conversation that we're having already, and I'm hoping that those are listening and reviewing, like you're already in the moment of, you don't have to be running calls and be so burdened with the stress of that. The thing that you can still enjoy at the Firehouse, hopefully, is the cooking aspect of it.
Well, yeah, and as much as I enjoy cooking, I don't really like doing complicated things. I mean, my cookbook, probably the most difficult thing in there is doing a roux for making the baked potato soup.
Sure. Roux are tough. I mean, you get to perfect it.
I mean, they're not terribly tough as long as you just keep stirring.
To be patient, right?
Yeah.
Guess what firefighters don't have? They suck at patience.
Yeah.
Actual patience too. I think that we can't emphasize enough that it is in that kitchen where the best things are had. Some of the best times are had. Certainly all the smack talk that goes down, and the funny times. The best jokes are told at the kitchen table. Probably the ones that the HR doesn't want to hear about, but too bad they exist, and it happens. And could you imagine going through the daily shifts that all the firefighters and paramedics are going through these days? So much busyness, so much more busy than what it's ever really been before. And people can say, oh, it's variable, it's comparable. I remember hearing a time, and I know this to be true, that there was a time when there were only 4 ambulances in the city of Rockford. And that seems crazy. That seems absolutely asinine. But you look at it today, and it's like, I think there are like 8 or 9, medic units in the city, and it's like, that still isn't enough. They just keep running the wheels off. So can you imagine having to do all that and still have shitty food?
Well, the other thing about the kitchen table is it's where you went when shit went wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, a guy, someone who may or may not be on this podcast, falls through a floor at a house fire, falls halfway into the basement. What did we do when we got back? We all sat down at the kitchen table and said, oh, shit, can you believe that?
I know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Rural Street and Alpine, right? The ranch fire. Yeah, I actually was, I still talk about it to this day. And obviously you were there. We were partners on the first in engine, and, things went sideways, and, it was a shitty morning.
Who would have ever figured that there would be an in-house pool in their basement?
I still can't even believe that either. This is for visual. I mean, this is not a special house. This house in particular was a very modest ranch style house. Ranch, is more like underscored. Like, this was not a mansion. This was not even a 2-story. It was a ranch with a 2-car garage.
I'd say at most maybe 1,800 square feet.
What's that?
I'd say at most maybe 1,800 square feet.
1,800 square feet, and there was a full-blown in-ground pool in the basement. So if that doesn't tell you what you're, doing a 360 survey, I mean, well, one, I hope you're doing it, and two, like, even doing those, like, you still don't always know what's in these houses.
No, and this pool was completely like what would that be? All 6 sides, completely surrounded by concrete.
Yeah.
So we're crawling in. This thing's going like a son of a bitch, and we can't feel any heat through the floor.
No.
because we're crawling on concrete.
Yeah, we were on a flex core floor there, and it totally makes sense because we did misread that fire. I thought, if I look back at it now, I think we thought was a attic fire. I think that's what we thought, and lo and behold, it was truly a full blown basement fire. It was all burning underneath us, and the floor gave out, and things went wrong. No, and I really appreciate that you were there for that, and that you remember that. One of the things that I also recall too, and I noticed this, I think it's maybe your profile picture on social media, but I think it's the fire. Did I snap a photo of you in front of? It's a rolling house fire. There's a garage. There's a tractor out there in front.
That was actually a guy who was he may still be a professional firefighter, or not firefighter, photographer in town.
Photographer? Okay.
And he had just gotten like a high-def digital camera. And this house fire was like 3 doors down from where he lived.
So that's just a few, awesome fires that we were together at. I'm going to save the one for a little bit later. I want to get back to some of the good eats at the firehouse with you. I want to ask you, what is a rookie mistake? What's a rookie mistake when you're cooking at the firehouse? And I mean for the rookies. I'm not talking, because we all kind of, you cook enough meals, you're going to cook some shitty ones. I know that I think I cooked some good ones, and I'm probably pretty sure I cooked a bad one.
Babe Ruth didn't hit a home run every time.
No, he didn't. But he did eat a lot of food.
Oh, yeah. I'd say the biggest one that I remember seeing was on Sugo Sunday, them bringing in a bunch of jars of Prego or Ragu or whatever. Yeah, thinking that would be, oh, hey, this is my mom's recipe. I feel sorry for you, kid.
Authenticity goes a long way. Even if you're trying to make the effort and you still kind of maybe don't come in, dialed in on your recipe, I think everyone would appreciate it if it's not coming from a bag or a bag or a box. Box all the fucking rice-a-roni and I get that some of that stuff has its place. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're trying to cook a quick meal, a fast meal, that sort of thing.
Perfect example of that. I was in Baltimore and went to a brewery, if you can imagine that. And right next door to the brewery in the same building was a cigar shop. So sitting in the cigar shop, having a cigar, drinking some beer, start talking to a guy, come to find out that he had retired out of the White House kitchen. And after he retired, he was teaching at the culinary college in Baltimore. So we were talking, I was talking to him about some of my recipes, and he was telling me about some of the ones that, Bush, the first one, he always liked when I made this. And so then we got to talking about like chicken pot pie. And I was saying, I know the real way to make it. But at the station, instead of making a roux using chicken broth and I use cream of chicken soup. Everything else in it is 100%. I chopped everything. I did the, He said, you know what? I do the same thing at home. He said, I could make it at the White House, and you'd bet I'm making it. I'm doing the broth and I'm doing a roux. And he says, I get home, I use the chicken or the cream of chicken soup, and it comes out almost exactly the same.
Sure. Another thing that comes out almost the same is if you just pick up a chicken pot pie from Costco. They are actually pretty good.
They are actually pretty good. I do have to admit to cheating sometimes and using the Costco rotisserie chicken instead of pounding some chicken breasts flat and cooking them up. And sometimes there just isn't time.
Actually, that is the truth. I mean, firehouses are very busy. There's nothing worse. They say, and I learned this. Who another good cook was, and is Ernie White, and I really learned a lot from him, and he did say something that stuck with me forever, even when I cook at home, is that you can do all the things right, but the last 10 minutes is when it comes together. And if that and you know what's going to happen, right? Because you're getting everything, you're so excited, you've made the meal of meals, you're about to get everybody to the table, and you're going to serve this wonderful meal. And what happens?
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch.
I can't tell you how many times I was on my way from the kitchen to the station PA to let everybody know it was time to eat. And before I could even get to the station PA, we would catch a run.
But now you bring that up, and I want to let you tell the story. I kind of know, but I want you to be able to share with the audience. Is that we had a way of calling people to the table in Rockford. Now you had your own special way, and I'll let you say that because you were the only one that did it. At least the one I can remember that you would do. But there was one that was universal, and if you want to go with that, do it.
So the universal, and again, nobody knows how it started. Nobody knows who was the first one to do it. But the universal was guys would pick up the station PA and just say, "It's a hoe."
And to underscore that, you could either do it that way or do exactly what you just said and just go, "Ho."
Ho. Yep.
That's it. That you didn't have to say it's a hoe. I mean, people did, like you just said, it's a hoe, or sometimes people just go, "Ho." And that's all. And that meant lunch and dinner was served.
Just going with ho, usually they're a bit more demonstrative with it. You know, guys, yeah, it's a ho. If they're just getting on saying ho, ho. I don't even remember how I developed mine, but I'd go to the station PA, open it up, give it a couple of hogs to the trough. It worked. Everybody showed up at the kitchen table.
I'm having flashbacks right now, and I think it's more like PTSD at the moment.
Is it making the old Pavlov jog start to drool a little bit?
A little bit. Yeah, nobody knows. Nobody knows where ho, at least I never got an explanation as to why that was the phrase, the term. But it was universal. Everybody knew what it meant. It meant that lunch or dinner was ready, and it would be said twice a day. Twice a day it was said. We cooked the lunch meal, we cooked the dinner meal, we ate those both together, and both times you'd open up that PA, as Mike just said, and you say, ho, and that meant everybody come to get your food.
And I heard a few times from different people, at least 3 or 4 different guys who supposedly were the ones that started it. So
sure,
I don't think anybody really knows.
Well, there's somebody out there that's claiming it.
Oh, yeah. Even if they weren't the one that's...
Even if they weren't, they're like, yeah, I came up with that. Someone listening right now like, oh, I totally did that.
There's someone that started in like 2010.
Hey, I got to admit something here, that my epic failure one time, and I don't even know why I went with this for a meal, but I bought a bunch of that chipped beef, the packaged chipped beef, and I sliced it all up. I just cut it all up. I put it in a pot. I put barbecue sauce on it and served it up like it was like barbecued chipped beef with bun, like on buns, like it's almost like kind of a roast beef sandwich, but it was fucking terrible. I mean, it was so fucking bad. Well, first of all, the salt content alone gave everybody a canker sore the second you ate any of it. And yeah, like I never did that one again. That never. Why would you? It was so bad.
I remember, I think I was in my maybe second year, maybe third year, and I had gotten a recipe for doing Italian-style meatloaf, and I actually tried it at home first. Came out great. For whatever reason, at the station, we didn't have like cut oregano. We had oregano powder, and not knowing any better, I used the same amount. Yeah, we ended up ordering pizza that night.
Oh, yeah.
There was no saving that one.
I tell you what, these examples that you're giving lend for great transitions, because you're like, yeah, when you screw up a meal, you just order a pizza, and everybody loves that.
Even once I had gotten things nailed down, and I was consistently putting out good meals, things would happen. Like I would make loaded baked potato soup. I would use the shells from that to make baked potato skins. Well, one time I made the potato skins, and then I threw the flesh from inside into a Ziploc, threw it in the freezer, thinking, okay, next day I'm going to make the baked potato soup. I also had in there, I had made some, I don't remember if it was at a station where we only had like 4 guys, so I would make my a deep dish pizza, but I'd only use half of the dough. The other half I'd freeze, and then 3 weeks later I'd use it again.
Yeah.
Well, one of the other shifts decided that they were going to use my pizza dough, so they had everything for making pizza, and they pulled out the potato flesh. So they ended up having to order pizza. Next day, nobody told me this, so I show up, I got everything for making baked potato soup.
Oh my!
Pull it out, and it's pizza dough.
It's pizza dough.
So we ended up having to order pizza also.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing worse than getting your meal screwed up. There's nothing worse. I'll tell you what, there's nothing worse than getting the shopping done and then you get shipped out. Remember, those days, right?
Then especially if it was something that was like one of my things.
Yeah.
Like I remember getting shipped out and trying to tell the guys over the phone how to make my deep dish pizza.
Which that you bring that up. I mean, that's your go-to. That's what I think you're known the most for is your deep dish pizza.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is it's so simple. I mean, it's 100% from scratch, but there's only like 5 ingredients in the crust. There's Italian sausage, mozzarella cheese, and chopped tomatoes. That's really all that there is to it.
Yeah. I remember people saying, like they were requesting it. Like if they knew that they were going to a different shift or a different station the following year, they would request like, hey, can you make deep dish pizza one last time? So no, it's very good. Very good.
Very good.
If we found out the day before I was getting shipped out somewhere, they'd call me, hey, would you mind doing your deep dish pizza for us? You can do whatever the hell you want for your other meal, but can you bring the stuff to do the deep dish for us?
So there you go. That's good. That's good. Okay. So aside from what you cook, could you describe the best Firehouse meal that you had ever had from someone or what would, or it could just be a cuisine, but what was the best one that you've had?
I would have to say, just right off the top of my head, I remember Mike O'Keefe making the old style tacos that they used to make, where they would just take the ground beef, mix taco seasoning, the sliders, then fold it over and deep fry it until the meat was done. Oh my God. I can only imagine how many heart attacks that was responsible for, but God.
I did have those every now and then. There were different people that would make their version of sliders, but I had heard about like who you just said and other people who made those. And I heard like people would eat like a crew, the whole shift would eat like 40 or 50 of them, because they were small and there wasn't a ton to, they were small, right? They were kind of like compact, if they will.
Just like the 6-inch corn tortilla.
The crews would eat like 60 of them or something like that. Just, oh my God. Can you imagine how
I know I ate 6
after that and throw up in your mask.
Yeah, what do they say? Never eat more than your mask can hold.
Never. That right there. That's wise man talking right there. That's a wise man talking right there.
I remember doing the deep dish pizza one time, and the record at the time was someone had eaten 5 pieces of the pizza. So,
oh yeah.
One of the guys decided he was going to go for the record and he was going to eat 6. Just as he's finishing the crust from the 6th piece, they catch a possible fire. He's going out to the truck and he was on the engine. He was begging the guys on the ambulance, please, just take this one for me.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Don't overeat. It's a long shift. You actually don't have to eat all your food at once. You can eat 5-6 times. Firefighters do that anyways, right?
Well, yeah. He was going for the record. I mean, there was pride at stake, I guess.
What about the worst? You don't have to say names. You don't have to dog anybody. Just what was the worst Firehouse meal you ever ate?
Other than my aforementioned Italian meatloaf, I'd have to say when somebody brought in like a big gallon can of tomato soup and did grilled cheese with it. That was it. Just slices of American cheese between 2 pieces of bread.
Yep.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I think we pretty much just dumped that into the sink in front of them and ordered pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. There have been some bad ones. I think the one that really does let you down is when someone brings in just the basics, right? They're going to do hamburgers and they turn into hockey pucks. And you have only one choice. It's either you eat the hockey pucks or you throw it away and you order pizza. And that's totally valid. I totally get that. I like a good burger, right? I mean, and it's not hard to make them, good.
A lot of it comes down to, did the cook screw it up or did the day screw it up?
They screw it up, for sure. For sure. Lots of cooks out there can be let off the hook for the fact that you can't control when the calls drop, when the tones drop.
Right. I do remember one guy just burn the shit out of one side of the burgers. So he thought he could hide it by just putting cheese on that side. I mean, they look delicious. When you went to take a bite, yeah, not so much.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let me ask you, let's keep going a little bit here. I'm just going to ask you two basics. Chili or pasta, if you had to pick one of them?
This time of year, definitely chili.
Yeah. Yeah. Pasta's great. I mean, I do. I love pasta. I mean, who doesn't like starch? I mean, who doesn't like pasta?
For Christmas Eve, my parents and in-laws came over, and it was a request from all four of them to do up a big pot of sugo.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is right there. Sugo Sunday. If I look back at the years that I had in Rockford, I always knew that if I worked a Sunday, 9 out of 10 times it was going to be good eats. You know, I mean, there were some iffy, you know, and you know, for those that are listening and viewing, is sugo, right, is Italian for sauce, yes? I'm assuming.
For gravy.
For gravy, yes. That's what I should.
What we would call a red sauce.
A red sauce, right. So Sugo Sunday was basically you just make this huge pot of sugo, and you let that, you know, the lunch was always pretty good, but it was always the better was at the supper time, the dinner time, because that had all day to simmer and kind of, you know, sit there and do its thing. And the night meal was always just so freaking awesome. You know, the meatballs that were left and whatever else you put in there. I was always a big fan of doing the short rib, having that in there as well.
I would always go one better, and I would make sure I made enough so that on Wednesday, our next work day, I'd have enough to where I could make some lasagna with it.
Or that became a pizza sauce too, a lot of times.
I know a lot of guys did that, but I mean, it's a totally different sauce between sugo and pizza sauce.
But it was done.
Oh, yeah, it was
done. What happens, though, to the guy when he first, you know, say Sugo Sunday, right? And he miscalculates and he doesn't make quite enough meatballs or enough Italian sausage, right? So at the end of the night, you know, that when you're having the second meal, because if you haven't figured this out, Sugo Sunday meant you were having this all day. You had it for lunch and you had it for dinner. You might change the pastas. So you might have spaghetti, you know, for the noon meal and have, I don't know.
Mastacholi.
Yeah, you know, something different, right? But yeah, if you come up short on the meat.
Yeah, I mean, sugo is good.
That was mutiny.
Yeah, sugo is good, but just pasta and sugo doesn't really keep you full that long without meat in there.
No, it doesn't. So now when you look at like the way that you go, you know, when you started thinking about all the stuff we've been discussing here so far, like when did you realize that this was going to be more than just the meals you had at the station, more than just you preparing meals for other firefighters? When did you start pivoting and saying, I think I can do more with this? And clearly you have. I mean, you've written a cookbook. We're going to talk about your spices. When did you start realizing, like, I'm going to do more with this?
It first started when I was still on the job, and I'd be at the grocery store in the morning. You know, I'd be in uniform, and there was the same 8 to 10, 80-plus-year-olds that were there. And as I'm going through, oh, hey, how you doing? What are you cooking today for the guys? And so I'd tell them, oh, how do you put that together? So that kind of planted the seed. And then once COVID hit and I had no more paramedic classes to teach, I had to do something to occupy my time. And I thought, you know what, I'm kind of had in the back of my mind to do the cookbook. I think I'm just going to dedicate to doing it. And it ended up being a lot more involved than I thought. Most of, if not all of the recipes were just up in here. Yeah. It was just muscle memory. But then, you know, by the time COVID hit, I had been retired for 2.5 years. So there was some recipes that I had not made since I had retired. So pretty much what I had.
And so much of it is if you can just say this real quick, is that so much of recipes in the Firehouse is from muscle memory. There's very little measuring.
Oh yeah.
In Firehouse Cooking, every ingredient is bought in bulk anyways. You know, so you're just grabbing the biggest canister that you can, and you're just, you know, dousing your sauce or, you know, whatever you're dry rub is or whatever. So, you really aren't measuring a whole lot. So I'm just curious, like when I look at this, you did put measurements to every recipe in here. So did you test this out?
Yeah, what I had to do is I had to pretty much make all of those recipes, and like the sugo, I would take like you were talking about, the bulk thing of spices, and I do 2 times around the top of the thing, stir it in, let it sit for a little bit, take a taste of it. It needs a little bit more, add a little bit more in.
Yeah.
And so I ended up remaking them all, and except I would shake the spices out onto a paper cup or a paper plate, measure them, put them in, give it a stir, and then, from there it was like normal. But I couldn't just say, 2 turns around the top and, see if it tastes good. So out of the 130 recipes in there, I'd say probably 100 of them I had to completely make and measure everything out on a paper plate and go from there.
And and thank you so much for sending this. This is great. And I will be using recipes out of this book. This is what I immediately thought of, was that, I know you and I know your cooking skills, and I started looking at this. I'm like, did you go through and measure all that out? And that's a lot of effort there. How long did it take you to do this?
Including all of the cooking and all of the writing, it ended up being, it was like 800 something hours. And it was a lot more involved than I thought it was going to be going in.
What made you figure out the recipes that you were there recipes that didn't make that were left on the cutting floor?
There was a few that were just like one-offs that I tried once and they didn't end up being in the routine. There was some that, everybody's had where, you're going to have a drill in the morning and you got this going on in the afternoon. And so you just, like take some pasta and butter and Parmesan and throw some chicken and some broccoli in there. And, I didn't really think that was worthy of, hey, here's one of my recipes, when it's something that pretty much every firefighter has ever done at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is actually one of my favorite meals at the Firehouse, was just a very basic sausage and linguine, Italian sausage. And just, it's heavy on the garlic, it's heavy on the olive oil. And there were guys that did make it better than others, but I really did. I enjoyed that very, very, very much. But you're right, though. I can see how that maybe wouldn't be included in this, whereas some of the things that are in here, and there's would be a little bit more sophisticated, I think. You're a sophisticated kind of guy.
Yeah, that's the first thing everybody says when they think of me.
Absolutely. That Mike Riley is so sophisticated. So sophisticated. But I really do want to. And where can people pick this book up at?
It's available on Amazon. Search for Cooking Ladder Cookbook. And after the, sponsored ones, it's the first one that comes up. One thing that I am doing with the cookbook, and I'm going to do the same with the spices, is 10% of the total profit I'm donating to Fire Department Coffee's foundation that they have. I'm a big believer in it. I didn't want to go through everything to establish a 501c3 when Luke already has it going.
Sure.
One of the things that I like about it is they help people not just that have had physical injuries, but have had mental health type injuries. All the years you and I worked together, my entire career, I never really felt the need to talk to somebody about anything. There's a couple of times where there was a kid involved that was about the same age as one of my kids, and all I did was called home. Hey, tell me that they're okay. They're fine. No, please get up, go to their doors, open their doors, tell me that they're okay. And once I knew my kids that were the same age were okay, I was fine. Once I retired, completely different story. It didn't start the night that I retired, but that next night, there was 4 or 5 times I had, I call them PTSD dreams. Basically, I relived something that I had gone through on the job, and I'd wake up, my heart would be pounding. And it wasn't like, I wish I had done this differently, or I wish I had done that differently. It was really just, I felt what I should have felt seeing what I was seeing. And when I first retired, it was easily 4 or 5 times a night. And it would take me an hour to get back to sleep, to, wind down after that and get back to sleep. Luckily now it happens maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. But one thing I tell anybody who's starting the job, even if you don't think you need to, talk to somebody. I can't do anything about it now, but I really wish I would have.
I think that you bring up something that's very personal, and all this really is very personal in this episode, because the cooking and the storytelling, sharing the funny anecdotes from the kitchen is it's meant to be entertaining, but it's touching, because that's where we do connect again. We connect in the kitchen, we connect around food. It's just human nature. It's just what it is. And firefighters do it fantastically. It just happens to be that they're just so good at it, right? But what they're not good at, as you say, is that they're not good at talking about their thoughts and feelings and the things that come out of some of the worst calls. And I'm going to touch on one with you that we have. I think this is a good way to think about it. But I will say that you're saying something that goes to the heart of people, firefighters, individuals that are just starting out today, getting on the job. And if you're on the job and you start doing this, because this is something I realize that I have started to do, if there are certain calls that you continue to replay in your mind, in your head, and sometimes what I've noticed is that I don't even realize that I'm thinking about it, and then all of a sudden I'll just catch myself going, why am I thinking about that? And for me, it comes back to does come back to the 2 active shooter, the shooter and stabbing incident I had there, and then the Mayday church fire at 428 North 428 North 2nd Street. And so, and I remember the dates, I remember the times, I remember everything extremely vividly. I remember what the weather was like in all 3 situations. One was a very, snowy night. One was a very stormy morning, and the last one was a beautiful sunny day. And they were very different. But I do find myself replaying those and doing that, and and that's what I think that you should think about when to reach out, to get somebody in your corner to start talking to them.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, when I was on the job, I never even had that. I never had once where I thought about, even, we talked before about when you fell through the floor.
Yeah,
we worked through it at the kitchen table that day when we got back to the station. When we got on the ambulance at night, we were still pretty freaked out about it, but we got our asses handed to us at night. And by the time we went home in the morning, all I could think about was, I need to get some sleep, because I sure the hell didn't get it last night.
Yeah, right. We have already teased this, so let's talk about it. We had one of the most horrific auto accidents together on East State Street. Do you recall the events of that?
I remember it was Blackout Wednesday, or Drinksgiving, as some people call it.
Yep.
You and I were just leaving one of the hospitals in town here, and the call came in. It was only a few blocks from one of the other hospitals in town. We were
on scene in 30 seconds.
Yeah, we were already on the street, so we were first there. We had a Corvette that had T-boned a SUV. Corvette getting into an accident, there was just fiberglass everywhere. And you had an SUV on its side about a half block down. And a person that was on their last legs, lying somewhere between the impact point and where the SUV ended up. Yeah, that wasn't our only spectacular accident that night, if you remember.
I know. You keep going. It was a crazy night.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was Blackout Wednesday.
It was Blackout Wednesday, the night before Thanksgiving. So, yeah.
But we were first there. Just the 2 of us. There was 4 people involved total, 2 from each vehicle.
Just a mess. Just debris everywhere. And like you say, people entrapped. We had extrication for both vehicles. Totally, the distance alone between where these vehicles landed was incredible.
I remember something about, because it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone there, and I remember something about there was a cop in the gas station across the street from Swedes had clocked the vet at like 90 something miles an hour.
Yeah, and it's because I know that when the impact happened, one of the vehicles, I think it was the Blazer or the SUV, went airborne. Because I think basically that Corvette and kind of acted like a like a ramp, and just everything just blew apart. But I just remember that you and I, basically there by ourselves for the first several minutes. You taking one vehicle, I went to the other, and us yelling at each other, kind of like, this is effed up, dude. Like we need everybody here. We need all kinds of things. And when it was all said and done, actually, our ambulance, you and I, we didn't transport a patient. Our ambulance got completely decimated. We had all of our trauma bandages and longboards, and everything was just, the whole ambulance was a mess. And I'm going to leave names out, but I do recall that at the time, our I'm going to use the term battalion chief, our chief, chewed our asses for not transporting anybody. And we were like, dude, like we were doing the best we could. Like we were trying to triage, and we treated like a little bit of a small little MCI. And I remember you and I just being like, well, that's not exactly how I thought this was going to go.
Looking back on it, we followed our protocols. We followed our SOP.
Yeah.
It just happened that we didn't actually transport anybody.
Well, those were the spicy moments, right? And with that, I'm going to just get back into your spices here because we haven't talked about that. How did you come up with these spices? And what I have here, like I said, I've got the Bombero taco seasoning, Snowstorm buffalo wing dry rub, and the Firehouse chili powder. Do you have other spices, or are these the three that you go with?
Those are the three I'm starting with. In total, I aim to have 15. Those are like the three most popular ones that people wanted. So I started with those. Next, I'm going to do like burger seasoning, Cajun seasoning, spicier versions of both the taco and chili powder, and the buffalo wing dry rub. Because with those, I just kind of went for a medium level of heat because you can always add some heat in, but you can't really take it away once it's in there. But it just started, it was so serendipitous, I would say. The same day that I had two people that I used to work with on the fire department say, hey, I put together this. One guy, it was the buffalo wing rub. The other guy, it was the taco seasoning. It came out great, but I don't want to have to put those together all the time. Can you just put them together and sell them? So the same day that those two people did that, a guy that I used to referee hockey with got a hold of me, and he had gotten a copy of the cookbook, and come to find out, he works at a company that puts seasoning mixes together. So I figured, when the universe speaks, you listen.
You can get the book on Amazon.com. You can get the spices at shop.com.
Shop.com or on the shop app.
Use the promo code ORIGINAL to get $1 off your order.
$1 off per spice.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much.
Shipping is $5. If you order 3 or more jars, shipping is free.
3 or more jars, shipping is free. So we obviously we've dug into the book here. I think this is great, Mike. Cooking Ladder, company number 1. You can get this on Amazon.com, and then the current 3 spices that you've created. These are the 3 that I've got in my hands, and I really appreciate that you shared those with me. You can get them at shop.com or on the shop app, and use promo code ORIGINAL to get $1 off of each spice that you order. So make sure to support this retired firefighter. God knows he needs the help because we're all living on a fixed pension here, so fixed income. Mike, it's been great to catch up with you. I think you've done a great thing here with just giving your background, your expertise, and your passion. And people know you, and they do know that you have a passion for food and culinary, and just and you share that with people, and I think that that's a great thing.
And another thing other than the people in the grocery store, I would have guys calling me up. Hey, I got to cook tomorrow, and when you made your shepherd's pie, I really liked it. Don't tell my mom. I think it's better than hers. But how did you put that together?
Now your mom's now they're gonna hear this, and you're gonna be in trouble. They're gonna be in trouble, So, but we really appreciate having you on, and really appreciate the conversation that we had about a little bit of the mental health and wellness piece of this. We certainly want to support all of that here at Original Firefighter. We do the same. We give 5% back to mental health and wellness for firefighters. please go to our store online, originalfirefighter.com. Pick up any merchandise that you see us wearing on the show, hats, T-shirts, hoodies. There's other items there, coffee mugs. We appreciate any of that. Mike, we've had a great time having you on the show, and we want to welcome you back at any time. Is there anything that you want to add as far as like, tell us your go-to, your do this thing if you want your meals to be good. Don't do this thing if you want your meals, if you want to screw your meal up. Give us a couple tips here.
Well, I mean, in general, if you add garlic, it's only going to make it better.
More garlic, right?
More garlic, more butter, more bacon.
Yep. Things here too. So here's what we've covered. We've covered, a great deal of talk about the Firehouse kitchen table, the cooking in the firehouse. We've gotten, back into some of the historic, special calls that you and I have had together. And I mean, this includes, falling through a floor on Rural Street, a devastating car wreck on East State Street, and other calls that, we might as well, as long as the arm goes, right? All the things that we've done together as far as being out in the streets. But one of the things that also comes to mind is you got a knack, dude, for seeing things in a different way when it comes to policy. When it comes to policy. And here's what I mean by this. We're talking about a guy so back where the department we both, worked for, Rockford, every department has a uniform policy. Every department has a uniform policy. And some are more liberal than others, some are more strict than others. And, the one that we were at tend to have a pretty strict uniform policy. One of the policies was that you had to have, so if you were on the ambulance, this is very important. This is the whole thing that was always wonky to me, so stupid. If you were on the ambulance, you had to have a collared shirt on at all times. And
if you were on the engine, you had to have it between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m.
Yes, there was these weird hours, right? So, but the funny thing about it was that we also had a job shirt that had a collar. I mean, it wasn't, so the policy was that, if you were on the ambulance, that you had to have a collared shirt on. And by the policy, what it meant was that you had to have one of the polo shirts on or one of the Class B button down. So that was the collared shirt. It was not satisfied by wearing the job shirt that also had a collar. Which had a collar. This is important. So Mr. Michael B. Riley Sr. decides, I'm not wearing two shirts at the same time. I'm not going to wear a polo shirt or and then also the job shirt. I'm going to be comfortable. So you cut the collar off of one of the polo shirts, right?
Yeah, the collar and then just down the chest a little bit. So that way, if I had the job shirt.
Like a cousin Eddie Dickey.
Exactly.
And then
you see it through the job shirt.
No, you couldn't, because the job shirt was heavy and dark material and that sort of thing. So when you wore this job shirt, it looked like you were wearing a polo shirt underneath it. Like you had a collar, like you always had the collar on, right?
Yep.
It's the best. It's so good. It's so good. It's so smart. It is. I'm sorry, but you pulled one of the greatest policy bends that I've ever seen.
And I can't tell you, because remember back when you and I were on the ambulance, if you were on days, you had to go down to headquarters to bring in all the paperwork from the day before. I can't tell you how many times I stood face to face talking to the chief of the department wearing this thing, and he never had a clue.
Yeah. I mean, as far as we were concerned, you were covering the bases, right? So, no, it was. I mean, there's so many good, funny antics that things that were pulled off, and again, these are the things that end up being talked about at the Firehouse Kitchen. I mean, and they live on, and I think that what's great about this conversation that we've had with you today is you've brought a lot of that back home, and to include your recipes in your cookbook. And really getting into the heart and soul of the Firehouse, which is the kitchen. So really appreciate the conversation.
Well, it was good catching up with you, man.
Absolutely. And for all of you that are listening and viewing, we hope that you always are eating well. We hope that you're taken care of and that you're taking care of each other when you're in the firehouse. And what we want to make sure is always at Original Firefighter that you be safe. This has been the Original Firefighter Podcast. Thanks for watching and listening. Tune in each week on Wednesdays for a new episode. Like and follow us on all social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel today.